Does your gut feel off? Is your energy unpredictable? Is recovery slower than it should be? You're not broken. Your system just needs a reset. The 28-day nutrition gut reset is designed for active people and athletes who want better digestion, steadier energy, and stronger performance heading into the new year. This isn't a DIY program. I'm supporting the group live 3 times per week with quick check-ins, guidance, and accountability. So space is limited to keep the experience personal. We kick off January 1st, and the last chance to join is January 5th. No extremes with this, no guesswork, just a smart, structured reset with people who train and live just like you do. Learn more and save your spot at theenduranceedge.com/reset. Start the new year feeling better from the inside out. If this sounds like what your body's been asking for, don't wait. January 5th is the final cutoff. Join us at theenduranceedge.com/reset. So have you ever met someone and they're a total stranger, and yet somehow you feel like you've shared these uncanny journeys and had these synchronicities that suddenly you're fast friends? Well, that's how I feel about my guest today. Her name is Jen Heller. She's the host of the Homes That Heal podcast. Now, let me get this straight. She didn't start there. And in fact, that's what a lot of today's podcast is about. Her journey from going to corporate America to now doing amazing things for all of her listeners through this Homes That Heal podcast. So when Jen was having challenges in her health, she didn't necessarily set out looking for holistic or unconventional solutions. In fact, wellness found her after she had a moment where the traditional route didn't fully explain what was going on in her body. This conversation isn't about one right way or replacing conventional medicine. It's about listening, curiosity, and understanding that every person's healing journey looks different, especially when you're truly ready for change. So if you're open to learning how environment, heat therapy, relationships, and simple lifestyle shifts can support recovery, sleep, and performance, this episode will meet you right where you are. Let's do it. All right. Welcome back to the Find Your Edge podcast. I am your host, Coach Chris Newport, and I am here today with an amazing guest. I'm so excited to bring her on. It's Jen Heller. And y'all, I'm excited for this conversation because we were just kind of joking that we literally did a podcast prior to recording this on something probably maybe totally different than what we're going to talk about. I don't know. We'll see. So
A little
Jen,
on topic, off
show.
topic.
Yeah. So Jen, you have an amazing podcast. It's called Homes That Heal. And the reason why I wanted to introduce you to our listeners is that the home is an amazing space and we spend a lot of time there. And, you know, for our folks, maybe they're sitting on their bicycle trainer or on their treadmill and being exposed, if you will, to all these different things. And then, of course, we do genetic testing and we see the propensity for people's ability to detoxify is a real thing. So I wanted to introduce everybody to Jen and get her to tell her story and then get a little bit more into all kinds of amazing things. So y'all buckle up. It's going to be awesome. So Jen, start us off with your story.
Oh gosh. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's an honor, and we always have so much fun talking. And, you know, my story, I always like to say that wellness found me. I wasn't exactly seeking it, to be quite honest. I worked in corporate. I was working in HR management, Coca-Cola, very just hustle and grind. I got that job right out of high school. Actually, I started at Coke when I was 19, went into business school, like did all the things, got married, built a house, like living kind of like what I would say a pretty picture perfect life, so to speak. Like we were very happy. And the one thing that was kind of in the background was like my health. I wouldn't say like growing up, I was not a thin child. I was always kind of chunky or stout or stocky, but something changed in my 20s and in my late teens and 20s, and I was gaining a significant amount of weight. And I just couldn't quite figure out why. Other than I knew I was just like I had a job where I was sitting a lot. And so I just kind of chalked it up to that. And I didn't really think too much of it, but I was actually secretly struggling a lot, like just really, I mean, swimsuit shopping, hanging out with girlfriends. I wasn't feeling comfortable in my own skin. And so one day I decided I was going to dig a little bit deeper into how I could, lose weight. I tried all the things, of course. I mean, if Walgreens had a punch card for weight loss pills, I definitely, maxed that out. But something shifted in me. And I guess, I mean, the real overarching, the catalyst for it was one night I was out with some girlfriends. We were at a bar, having some drinks, having some fun. And a stranger came up to me and he was drunk. So, you could chalk it up as whatever, but this guy w- just started calling me fat over and over and over and all these names. And he just kept using the term fat. And he was actually being rude to the bartender. He was just like one of those belligerent people in the bar that everyone's like, what is this guy doing? Like, but for some reason, he locked eyes with me and I was just like, knew the bar owner and I was like, you're not going to act like this in my friend's bar. Like we locked eyes and just, he tore into me and embarrassed me in front of everybody and just kind of shredded me on my personal appearance. And Chris, I went into the bathroom. I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was like, I just took a minute. I went into the bathroom and something in me completely shifted and I just bust into tears and I just like did the whole like back up against the bathroom wall, slid down to the floor and just started sobbing in my sweatshirt arm. Like I was shaking. Something in me was like, this perfect stranger sees somebody that like I'm afraid of, right? Like I just felt so out of body. That was actually the pivotal point for me to the next day I was like, I am going to become the CEO of my health. Like I am going to decide that I'm going to figure out how I can lose weight and get healthier and be healthier. So I made some appointments with the doctor. I got some blood work done and just started collecting data, collecting information. And I convinced myself there had to be something wrong with me, and so I was looking for those answers. So all this blood work came back, and the doctor said basically like, "Well, you have a thyroid issue, and but everything else seems to be okay. Maybe we should take your thyroid out and have remove your thyroid. Something seems to be amiss, and then we'll go from there." And I just thought, I remember going out to my car and sitting in the parking lot and started crying. I was like 20, I don't even know, 26, 27 at this time. And I remember thinking like, God gave me a thyroid. Like, why would they cut it out? Like they didn't even give me an answer for that. And I just thought, well, what would be the purpose of that? And the explanation was like, well, your body's not detoxing properly, your metabolism's sludged up, like your whole system isn't working. This is what we need to do. And I just thought, what do you mean my body's not detoxing? Like I don't understand that. I want more information. And they just couldn't give it to me. So I just decided that I wasn't going to do that surgery. And I was telling one of my girlfriends that night, I was like, I'm like, I just can't, I don't understand. Like, do you just like, forgive me for being naive, but do you just remove organs if they're supposedly not working for you? Like, I just didn't quite understand. I've never been in like the science background. I was always, interested in other things. And so I didn't quite understand the human anatomy. Like, how does this work? And so my girlfriend was like, hmm, that's interesting. She's like, I have this friend, or I have this friend and resource, this clinic here in town that does nutrition response testing, NRT. Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, no, what is that? And she said, well, my husband is going to see her, this woman, her name is Ashley, because he has Lyme's disease and his body is not processing, like there's some detoxification and some issues going on. And he's been struggling. Well, here I'd been friends with this woman for 15 years. I did not know her husband had Lyme's disease. Like, so this was the first conversation. So she starts opening up to me about some of the struggles and what he's been going through. And so we just had this really great, vulnerable, open conversation about how, another path, right? A different way of which you could test the body. And so I didn't know what NRT was. I went home that night. She's like, well, I happen to have one of these cards for a free consult. If you're interested, you could go see her and just see what happens, right? And I was like, okay, maybe I'll check that out. So I went home that night, looked into NRT, which I said is nutrition response testing. Okay, well, full disclosure, I'm not a practitioner of NRT, so I'm going to probably butcher this description. So I'm going to give you the best description on how it was used for me or how it was explained to me. So I made an appointment on her schedule and went into her office. And I'll be honest, I didn't really tell her a whole lot about my symptoms and what I was struggling with. I just thought, I'm going to see if she can figure out like what's going on. Maybe I want to see if she comes to the thyroid. Like I want to kind of see. I basically said, I'm overweight because at this point I was over 100 pounds overweight. I was like, well, I'm overweight, obviously. I've got some unhealthy habits. I need some help and I want to lose weight. She's like, okay, get on the table. Basically, like just kind of imagine like a massage table. You're laying on your back, put your arm up, your right arm up. And she proceeds to go through. She's like, I'm going to use your arm as the gauge. And she's like, just hold strength. She's like, your job is just to hold the strength, and I'm going to use your arm and push on it. And you just continue to resist me. You basically are working against me. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So she wasn't talking a lot. And so we went through this whole 5, 10, 15-minute analysis, and she's putting all these different things on my body, like all these little vials. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, but interesting. I'm just going to let her carry on. And all of a sudden, she put a couple of vials like on my chest. My arm was straight up in the air. And all of a sudden, it just, boom, it like drops down. Like I couldn't control it. I felt it. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. What is that? And she's like, oh, she's like, you felt that? And I'm like, yeah, what was that? I'm like, do that again. And so we did it again. Fast forward, turns out it was lead and mercury. It was two different heavy metals. And she said, again, this is like 15, 16 years ago. So I'm just, ad-libbing here. But she was basically like, do you have any major exposure to mercury and lead that you're aware of? And I said, no, not that I'm aware of. Why? What's going on? And she put her hands right here on my thyroid. And as soon as she put her hands on my thyroid, my arm went down. Like I couldn't control it. Like she pushed it down and I couldn't hold it up. And she's like, well, she's like, you have heavy metal toxicity. It's trashed your thyroid. It's crossed the blood-brain barrier. And she just went on and, she's like, she's like, this is probably one of the highest levels I've ever seen. She's like, you're in trouble. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So now I'm just like speechless and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what do I do? So again, fast forward. So that was basically the catalyst for me to understand there's another path and way in which you can test the body, work with the body, understand what's going on versus just using blood work, right? Not throwing anything under the bus here, but like just different energetics.
Yeah, it sounds more what I'm familiar with as being kinesiology.
Mm,
So that kinesiologist will test, you kind of hold your arm out and then, some
yeah.
resistance and yeah. So clearly this has woken some stuff up for you.
Yeah. And so essentially, she was the one who said, are you familiar with sauna therapy? And I said, well, everybody knows what a sauna is. I grew up in Wisconsin. Of course I do. And she said, well, we're going to talk about some different ways in which that we're going to start detoxing the body, but you've got to get these metals out. She's like, you're in trouble. Like this is not ideal. And so we started talking a little bit about some neurological issues that could come up. And sure enough, some of the things that she was suggesting and talking about, I was experiencing like memory loss and some things, but just some things I had kind of written off. But it's like, oh, okay, sleep disruption, fatigue, memory loss, feeling like you're in a fog, like your head weighs 1,000 pounds. Like I was experiencing all these things, but I didn't realize it. So I think what's interesting is like we can get
It's
comfortable
almost your norm,
right.
right?
We can get comfortable managing something until we realize that it's not normal or that it gets corrected or somebody points it out and it's like, oh yeah, actually that isn't normal. So she's actually the one who, again, this opened up the doors of infrared saunas for me. And I started down the path of now I'm like blinders on. First of all, I left that place. I gave her the hugest hug and we've been friends ever since, obviously. But I remember leaving feeling so empowered. I was scared. I was like, where did these metals come from? Like all these emotions were going on, but I was like, I found somebody that I can trust, that I can, like, I've got a ground zero pivot point where I can come back to for different measurements and different ways in which I can fix this and she's going to help me. And that's what she said. She's like, we can fix this. It's no problem. We see this all the time. It's environment, probably some environmental toxicity stuff. And here are some of the things we're going to do. And so that kind of set me on my path of like, I am so intrigued on how the human body works and how to open up these detox pathways, how I can improve my sleep, what do I need to do to feel better, all the things. So that's kind of that's what set me on the path in a
Okay.
nutshell.
Amazing. Did she do any, just out of my nutrition curiosity brain, did she do any chelating therapies, or did she mostly send you into more sauna based detoxification? Like, did you take anything orally at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did some chelation. I'll be honest, like to think back, this is probably one of the most common questions I get asked. And I probably should actually just maybe go back and ask her because I'm sure she has record of it. But like, what did I do exactly to start the process of the metals? I will say that when I left there that day, there were a handful of things. And I really appreciated the fact that she didn't give me 1,000 things to do because I felt very overwhelmed with the information that she was giving me, but she gave me a few things to do. First thing was is that we talked about my diet and some of the food I was eating. She immediately wanted to know like my sugar consumption and my eating habits, and I had to clean some things up. For example, evening snacking. I had a problem with eating ice cream. I was kind of like that was kind of a go-to thing. There were a few habits that were not serving me well, and she very much looked me in the eye and said, "If you want to heal and you want to get better, you're going to need to set that stuff down." She's like, "You're going to need to break up with ice cream." I was like, okay, all right, I can do that. So she gave me a handful of things to get rid of: ice cream, snacking. I needed some more greens. She really wanted me to introduce some more nutrient dense like greens. Cilantro was one that I remember, just getting some more like cabbage and vegetables and things in. So I needed to clean up my diet, which I knew I needed to anyways, but she just really gave me the resources to do so and some specific foods that were really good for detoxification. So the food was one. She really, one other thing I can say for sure was that I told her that I had a TV in my room and that I would fall to sleep to a TV because she was asking all the questions, like, walk me through your life. And I was just like, from morning till night. And the TV in the bedroom was one of the things she said, get rid of it. She's like, You cannot be staring at screens and expect that melatonin, like your brain, you're sending a signal to the brain to wake up. Now, I know for a lot of people listening, a lot of people are like, well, it makes my eyes tired. Okay, yeah, it probably make your eyes tired, but really actually what it's doing is putting strain on the brain. And so she's like, you have to stop watching TV at night. Or like, that's not a way to go to sleep. She's like, either take the TV out of the bedroom or watch TV in the living room. And when it's time to go to bed, you need to shut it down. No phones, no blue light, read, meditate, whatever it is you need to do, sit with yourself. But she said, no TV going to bed. And I was like, interesting. Okay. So that was another thing that I had to change. And to this day, I haven't had TV in my bedroom since. Like it's just, that made such a huge difference. And then to answer your question back to the supplements, there were a few key supplements that I took particularly to bind the metals. One was called Metal Free, and that was, I believe, the company's Body Health. I believe they still sell that or they still offer that. That was a very powerful binder. And I was taking another supplement from Standard Process called Thyroid, which was really supportive for the thyroid. And then a few other specific chelators that she started me on. But I would see her every 2 weeks and we would dose and we would test and we would dose and we would test. And we were really just like listening to the body and letting the body tell the story and say what it likes, what it needs, and what it doesn't need. So it was just fascinating to me. It was absolutely fascinating.
Such a cool journey. Oh my goodness. So, okay, so let's get into the saunas. So, because you're in Wisconsin. And like you said, you're no stranger to needing to stay warm. Did you start into like a regular sauna or did you go into infrared sauna? Because I know you're really big on infrared. So, talk a little bit about your journey with that and then leaning into like pros and cons maybe of each and how that fit into your process.
Mm-hmm. So yes, Wisconsin, like saunas were not new to me. Heat therapy has been around forever. It's ancient wisdom, right? Most people know sauna bathing. It's fantastic, purging, detoxing. so many beautiful longevity studies on sauna therapy. One of the things that changed my life was Ashley invited me to go with her to an event in California. It was an event for practitioners, and she was allowed to bring a guest. And she asked me if I would go. I think we became fast friends, but she was also kind of enamored at my case because the levels of metal in my body and how I was functioning and tolerating it was, I think, very interesting to her. Looking back at it now, I mean, it was very scary, quite honest. But she kept saying, like, I don't know how you're functioning. And as you know, fast forward, we'll get to it. I had a stroke and was paralyzed on the left side for a few years. So this journey was a bumpy one, and we'll get into that in a minute. That happened after I started therapies and started working with the detox. But Ashley invited me to go to California and attend this event, and it completely opened my eyes. It was a whole event on detoxification. There was a holistic dentist there. There was all these different ways in which that you could look at the body as a holistic, energetic being. There were practitioners there teaching on the different ways in which you can use energy healing, light energy, all these different modalities on how um, I don't want to say outside of mainstream, but it was just all under one roof. And clear light infrared saunas was one of the speakers and vendors there. And they had a sauna on display so that you could sit in it and use it. And so while we were there, and Ashley had educated me a little bit because she had said, you need an infrared sauna, and here's why. An infrared sauna is a light energy that actually, so similar to the sun, but without dangerous UV, it's actually sending a light energy into the body, penetrates through the skin and muscle tissue about an inch, inch and a half or so, depending on the wavelength and the sauna, of course. And the purpose is to elevate your core body temperature so that you sweat from the inside out versus a traditional sauna heats the airspace. So it stops at skin surface level. And so it's a different heat application. And in my opinion, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no one better over the other, in my opinion. I just think they have benefits they each have their own benefit. For my case, in the sense of detoxing heavy metals and like actually tapping into the fat cells where these metals were hanging out in the cellular system, I needed the light energy to actually tap into the body, raise my core temperature about 2 to 3 degrees. So essentially self-inducing a fever and pushing the metals out, forcing the lymphatic system to do its job, because that was also part of my problem was the metabolism wasn't firing, the lymph system wasn't working. Like the best way I could describe it, and Ashley always said, she's like, your system is sludged up, everything's backed up. Like we need to just get things moving. And working out, I wasn't even breaking a sweat working out. And so we knew something wasn't functioning right. So the infrared essentially elevates core body, forcing the body to sweat, gets the blood flow going, vasodilation, circulation is moving, and the temperatures are a bit lower. Generally, a traditional sauna is like 170 to 200 degrees. Some are even as hot as 220 if you're pouring the water on the hot rocks, which I love, by the way. I'm a heat warrior all day long. This was a different way in which I could put less stress on my body. So not the high heat, heavy, hard to breathe steam. I literally just needed to sit there, which is easy, and the light energy was going to do the work. And so Clearlight was also speaking at that event and really just, did a much better description of what I just shared, but really talked about how our energetic light beings work with this light energy and how it's a perfect harmonious match in order for the body to release and open up these detox pathways. So I sat in the sauna for 5 or 10 minutes. It felt amazing. I felt like, of course, I didn't break a sweat and I didn't do a full session, but I remember sitting in that sauna for the first time. In fact, I have a picture of it still on my phone to this day. I remember sitting in that sauna thinking, this feels like a healing sanctuary to me. So it felt different. It felt like a space where I could go, where I could go and be with myself and sit with myself and really release. And yes, there were metals, but I don't know how to describe it, Chris. Like we were at this venue, right? There's people everywhere, but we went in, they had music playing. It was like Native American flute music or something. It was like the most peace, like something you hear at a spa. And I remember just sitting in there and like feeling the warmth. And I was like, oh, this is what my body needs. this is what my body needs. Okay. And so, I mean, the rest is history. Got a sauna, came home, started using it. The protocol was to use it every day for a period of time, pairing it with some of the supplements, hydration, and then the wheel just started. Like the wellness wheel just started slowly but surely down this hill of progression. So that is how I found infrared saunas.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Well, what I appreciate about that story is that there was a level of awareness that you were able to tap into to say,
Yeah.
this feels good. And I
Yeah.
think, especially in the population that we're speaking to, is hard driving, endurance athletes, high achievers, like go, 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 ignore everything, including the fact that you're not sleeping well or that you're in pain or that something just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
That it is good to be aware and to tap into what your body is telling you. And I also find that fascinating, sort of circling back to that gentleman in the bar who was like, I'm going to make you feel something. And boy, did you feel something, and set you onto this path of
Yeah.
starting to tune in. I'm always fascinated also, like you had mentioned, like Ashley saying, how are you functioning? I've seen some labs like that. I'm like, literally,
Yeah.
how are you functioning? Like, I don't, these numbers are
It's
bananas.
alarming.
So
Yeah, that's what she said. And I was like, well, my mom always said I was a high achiever. I'm like, I guess I'm a really good sick person too. I don't know.
Ah,
I don't know how I was functioning. The best way I can describe it is that you just keep going. And like I said, at the time, I was in a hustle and grind job. Like you just don't stop. And so, to your point, I think that's what was really interesting in that moment when I sat in the sauna for the first time and was like, I kind of just checked out of everything else and just tuned in for just 5 minutes. I just tuned into myself and I'm like, yeah, this feels good. This feels like something my body needs. And the quiet and the disconnection, like I've always been a nature person. Like I take solo trips. Like I do, I'm a very solo person and can be in my own quiet. I love it. But there was something about this where it was the mind body connection for some reason. It felt different. And the light energy does that. Like that's something, I mean, if you listen to my show, I'm constantly talking about like your sauna is just not a hot box for you to go in and sweat. It's like, sit in meditation, like pray, like listen to yourself, like sit with yourself and think about what do I need to do today? How do I want to feel? Like, don't make it another task, another thing you need to do. Like, really tap into what is going on with your body. And what I found is because of that feeling that I felt that day, sitting in the sauna for the first time, every time I sat in it afterwards at home, like, I remembered to remember.
yes.
I remembered to remember that I wasn't gonna bring a bunch of noise into the sauna with me.
Hmm.
It was going to be, "This is gonna be my gen time," like, serious gen time, and that is what I mean, the heat therapy, yes, it detoxed me. I lost over 100 pounds. All of these beautiful physical things happened. The metals were removed, everything. But what really happened in that hot box, Chris, was that I found myself. I found myself. I listened to my heartbeat. I listened to my body on days when I needed to turn the temperature down a little bit. I honored that and I turned it down. If I had to open the door a little bit, I opened the door and got some fresh air instead of like hustling and muscling through it. If I needed to sit there for an extra 10 minutes and cry because I mean, which is always happens in the sauna because you're crying and you're releasing and you're just like, oh, no one's watching, just like let it go. But it just became this release and this like so call it detoxification, but it was like this purge and this release of everything. And then I started getting clear on like, do I really like my job? Am I really happy in this marriage? Like what's going on? Like we can do a whole show on like what I did after, but it's like it really got me tuned in to my mind, my heart, my body. Like, how did I get myself into this space? How am I functioning with Mercury sitting on my brain at a level of which I should die? And which, of course, as I said, I had a stroke. It ultimately did create a situation, too much stress, because I did make some very wicked changes in my life.
Mm.
Got divorced, quit the job, did all these things, slung myself into entrepreneurship. Next lesson for me was, okay, I did all these detoxification things, but I did a little too much at one time. The body let me know it. That's another warning shot. Fast forward, that just set me on another path of some more healing, more journey, more things. But really, what my detoxification process truly was about was just like coming home to myself and really understanding what was not serving me and like literally living in my body and how I needed to remove it.
Uh, that like gives me chills. So
Mm,
good. You had mentioned that Ashley wanted your sleep routine to be better and to remove your TV.
mhm,
And then you're mentioning how in the infrared sauna, it's your gen time. So tell me a little bit about digital detox. Is
mm,
that a clear boundary that you have for yourself or your loved ones, for your space? And
mhm.
what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the things, I think one of the biggest overarching beautiful things that happened in all of this, even the stroke, like I'm grateful for all of it, was that over the last 15, 16 years, however many years it's been now, is I have leaned into understanding that our home is our sanctuary space. And that, I travel all over, we're on planes, we're here, we're there, but like home base for me needs to be sanctuary. And so I have spent a lot of time and money and energy into harmonizing my home into a space in which it's literally a healing space everywhere in our house. And so I don't live like a nomad. I don't live in a yurt with no technology. Obviously, I'm in my office and we have this, I have all this stuff, for this, but there are very clear boundaries that I realized that I needed to create for myself. The TV was just one of them. That was just a start. But what that did was it kicked the door open for me to understand where else am I completely like sucking the energy out of my life? Like, where else are these electronics in my home? Where's the router for our Wi-Fi system? Like, where's the smart meter? If the smart meter's up against your bedrooms or your kiddos' bedrooms, like figure out ways in which that you can deter those frequencies because they're constantly pinging us, pinging, 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 like life-sucking energy out of us. So I started moving myself around my entire house and just doing different things in different areas of the home to harmonize it. And when I say harmonize it, I just mean minimize EMFs, minimize the exposure, and then create very clear areas where there's no EMF, which is like our bedroom. There's no TV, no electronics, like the Wi-Fi, everything is completely on the other side of the house. I have different crystals and stones and things for mitigation. I have an old school alarm clock, the sunrise alarm clock. So if I have to wake up, I wake up to the birds chirping and it's just run off of a battery and plugs into the wall. Literally no electronics in my bedroom anywhere near it. And my husband, who, likes to sometimes break the rules and bring his phone in the bedroom a little bit just to do some what I call doom scrolling before night once in a while, like that's fine. But that phone is going to go back out of the room when we go to sleep. That is 100% boundary. And anybody who knows me, even my mom, when I go to her, like that's a wicked boundary that I set because when I go to sleep, my body is resting and restoring. It's recharging its batteries, resting, digesting. I'm asking the body to work for me when I'm resting. What I don't need to do is give it 75 hurdles and a ring of fire to jump through while doing it. Because if I do, I'm going to wake up mediocre or I'm going to wake up tired because the body couldn't do what God asked it to do or just given us to do. So you give it the tools or you remove some of these tools that are around our home and give it the space to create and give it the space to feel good. I mean, I can tell you within a week or two of not having a TV in my room, I did feel more rested. When you start tuning into these things, you're like, hmm, Yeah, I actually woke up and I didn't have a headache, or I actually woke up and I could open my eyes instead of like peeling them open. It completely makes a difference. And so, yeah, that's a non-negotiable. Anybody, guests who come to our home, there's certain things, we don't have like TVs. We have no smart devices. Like, I shouldn't say no, we have a couple smart TVs, but very few devices in this house. Like, it's it's harmonized in a way where you walk in here and it feels different than most places, I would say, because I've energetically created a space where we're not being pinged all the time.
That's so cool. And I'm glad you mentioned that because we were talking about this before we came on the podcast. I
Mhm.
was like, oh, we need to start recording. I think that that is something that we are likely trained out of recognizing
Yeah.
is the energy in a space.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'll give you guys an example. Like if you walk into like a big conference room and there's a lot of people, like you can feel that there is a certain energy in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad or good. It's
Mhm.
just a different energy, right? And then let's say you walk into somebody's house and they're arguing. Like you can feel that energy. And granted, perhaps some people are less intuitive than others, and
Mhm.
that's fine, but I also think that part of that is training, that we have
Yeah.
trained ourselves out of recognizing some of those things and like trusting our gut and trusting our intuition and sensing whether a place feels right to us. So
Mhm.
your house sounds amazing. It sounds like it's one of those that you just go, it's like walking to a spa, where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, okay,
Well,
this is
that's what it
awesome.
is. And that's honestly, like, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's actually what I tell people. They're like, "Oh, your house sounds fabulous." And I'm like, "But everybody's house can do." It's literally like we pay to go to the spa. Why don't we just create it under our roof? Like, I want to create a life I don't need a vacation from. Like, every day is a day at the spa. I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns over here. Don't get me wrong. I'm living regular life just like we all are. But we've created a space where it gives us the tools so that we can disconnect. I can tap in when I'm in my office. I'm around electronics all day long in my office, but then the rest of the house isn't pinging. And so what's also interesting to me too, and you know, I work with a lot of professional athletes. Like I've been in the sauna business now for many years, working in red light therapy. I've been so grateful. I quit that corporate job and I opened up a wellness center and started, detox and wellness center, started helping people on their own journey. And have been doing this now for years. I work with some amazing athletes, professional people of all kinds, celebrities, singers, like people who are high level performers and like, they need to be on. And there's all these tools and there are all these gadgets like the Aura rings and like all these different things. And we think that we need all of those because we want to collect the data. But what I always tell people is like, it's fine to have the data, but like, where are you going to like get away from that? Like, when does the body get a break from all of the things that you're throwing at it? Like, most of us, if we look at screen time or if we look at the amount of time that we're away from like the digital detox, so to speak, it is not common for people to think that they can function and live without these things. And I think there's a shift happening where people are starting to get attuned to like they don't want all of these, like, gadgets and things in and around them because they can start to feel that they don't feel great around them. Lights, all these different things, but it's interesting how less sometimes is better, like, just simplifying it. And Morgan, my niece, we've talked a bit about Morgan as my 19-year-old niece that lives with us. And, talk about a generation that's like grow up on their phones, right? Like she doesn't even know, when she came to live here with us and I was like, here are the rules. Here's how this is going to go. You're not sleeping with your phone. This is the kind of alarm clock. And she was just like flatlined, like, what is happening? Like, no, I need my phone. I'm like, no, you actually don't. You actually don't. And I'm going to show you how and why you actually don't need to live on this thing or be that tethered to it because that's not healthy. That's a codependency. So, she would feel anxious about something or she'd like have something she needed to work on. I'm like, go lay out in the grass, go out in the grass. So now she knows if she asks me what my first answer is going to be, I don't know. Did you go lay out in the grass? Did you go lay under the sun and figure it out? Like Earth's energy, pulse penf energy, it's in the earth, literally, bare feet, body on the earth. That's the best charge you're ever going to get.
And it's not woo. I know a lot of people might be like, oh, well,
I know.
whatever. No, like take a meter, stick it in the ground.
Yeah.
There is some definite healing energy.
Yeah, well, the earth has a heartbeat. Mother Earth does have a heartbeat. I think we can all agree on that. If you follow Schumann resonance, great. If you don't, look it up. It's interesting. But, the earth has a pulse. It has a heartbeat, just as we do. And I think when we get back into rhythm with that, whatever we're trying to do in your goals for training, whether it's jobs or focus or balancing life stuff, when we get into rhythm with that, we feel like we're more in flow. We can actually get clear, make better decisions. So that has actually been one of my go-tos, especially after my stroke. I mean, that was another whole like, oh, interesting. What I needed, I mean, I spent a ton of time like grounding and earthing, like I had to, because a stroke is a neurological condition, obviously. And for me, it was actually a couple things. It was the metals, the residual from some metals. And then also when I was 15, unfortunately, there was an explosion, an accidental explosion that I was a part of or was witness to. And it was massive. I mean, my high school sweetheart was killed that day. It was very unfortunate, very traumatic. I fortunately was somewhat sheltered. I shouldn't say fortunately, another person. I was in an area which I was sheltered from any metal shrapnel and glass in the blast. I took very little impact from it, but I was thrown about 8 to 10 feet from the impact from the blast, and it was on the right side of the brain. So that was actually the real major reason for the stroke is because I had massive brain damage from that day that went untreated. It was a massive concussion because I was one of the least injured that day and it was chaos. I never went to the hospital. I was never treated. So it turns out after the stroke, we did some MRIs, we did some things like where did this come from? Combination of the metals and the stress, but it was the damage on the brain. So I just want to clarify that. So people aren't thinking I had a stroke due to mercury or lead. That was a piece of the puzzle, but really what it was a massive concussion and damage to the brain that just was the perfect storm, 15 years later. And so again, getting grounded, like how do I heal my body? How can I put it back into rhythm? And I needed to get back to some basics.
So, speaking of basics, are there
Mhm.
any specific
Mm.
basic things that you get to do on either a daily basis, a weekly basis, call it a routine, call it a
Yeah.
ritual?
Well, as you know, and as anybody who's landed on my site or listened to my show, my house is what I would consider kind of a wellness fortress. So I have a lot of different modalities and things, and I literally could spend all day doing a morning routine. And I think that's where some people get hung up a little bit is like, oh, I need to do all these things. You know, some days, maybe like my weekends look a little different than my weekdays, to be quite honest. Like I do have some non-negotiables in the morning where just consistency is key. I start with a few things like my prayer, my meditation, my gratitude, my grounding, drinking some water. Warm lemon water has been something I've been doing since day one. Ashley mentioned that to me years ago. Just kind of kicks the liver in a little bit when you first get up in the morning. So that's definitely just something I do to kind of get the body moving and rolling. I do sit in a lot of stillness in the morning. I like my quiet time. And I have a machine called a brain tap machine that I use quite frequently. Actually, that's a light frequency machine. I don't know. Are you familiar with brain tap?
I am not, but I'm getting introduced to one on Friday at my chiropractor.
Oh,
So
you are?
she's got like this little recovery room. She's like, you can use all the things. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So,
Yes.
and
Oh
that's
my
going to be
gosh.
my next question. Like, where do we start if we're like at ground zero, or what might be
Yeah.
ground zero?
Yeah, so like I said, I guess for me, my routine's a little bit different because, when you chase your health backwards, and this is one of the reasons why I've created my show, this is one of the reasons why I do what I do, open my center, continue to teach, is like I chased my health backwards after I got it to a level of apparently I was managing it, but it wasn't a good situation. And so being more proactive and just kind of putting the hands on the wheel of your life and, bringing in some of these modalities are great, but also just getting clear on slowing down a little bit and getting some routines in your morning to kind of set your day to set your day so that it's not chaotic. I sauna almost every day. I do cold therapy, whether it be in my cold plunge or I just, cool shower kind of wakes me up a bit. Like I said, my grounding and my outside time. Something we didn't talk about a ton, but I want to mention is our circadian rhythm. That was another thing going back to the sleep thing is when we're looking at artificial light, it's really sending signals to the brain to confuse it. And that's just kind of the easiest way to say it. So getting our bodies back in harmony with natural sunlight, sunrise and sunset. Years ago she had mentioned, people love to see a sunrise and a sunset, and it's because the red light, the natural wavelengths that come off of the sun during that time. If you can get outside and get your eyes on sunlight in the morning, you have no idea how beneficial that is for you, just to help balance the hormones, harmonize it. It's sending the signal to the body. It's time to wake up. It's time to be awake and alert for the day. And then the same at night as the sunset, you're kind of sending the signal to the body to calm down, relax. It's time for rest and restore, which is again why stimulating ourselves with TVs and iPads and computers and phones after dark, it's sending the wrong signal to the brain. So just finding some of these rhythms and working with nature and working with the body, those are really my daily non-negotiables actually. Like if I do nothing else, it's just get some sunlight, put the phones down before bed, drink plenty of water, which is great. But it's just kind of going back to some ancient wisdom, like legit ancient wisdom.
That's so cool. And I was going to actually ask you, like, what are your three main takeaways for everybody listening? And I think you beat me to the punch there.
Oh,
So
three main takeaways. Yeah, I think, anybody who's interested, the heat therapy is amazing. As you know, that's been it saved my life. Infrared sauna saved my life. And I don't say that lightly. It literally saved my life. Like I sat in that sauna and watched the metals pour out of my body while I sobbed and cried and wondered, how did I get to this point? We did find out the mercury was coming from cavities in my mouth, which I've obviously since had removed, and did that whole chelation process working with a holistic dentist. If you're going to do or go down that path, make sure you're finding a dentist that follows those protocols. Very, very important. A lot of information online. In fact, I interviewed a fantastic holistic dentist earlier this year that just really talked about the evolution of the dental industry and why so many people have mercury, how that is causing issue. And then the lead, we just discovered that was just some lead-based paint that I was exposed to and some things that were environmental. And so again, just going into discovery and figuring out what those things are. But all of this stuff, a lot of different gadgets and things that I've used over the years. I've tested a lot of things and a lot of things worked, many of which are, on my website. But really, my main takeaways for people are get back to basics and eliminate the things that are causing stress and noise in your life. What I like to say is on a scale of 1 to 10, if it's a 5 or higher in the noise category or bringing stress to your life, you should probably find a way to set it down, let it go, bless and release, or find a replacement. That was huge for my life. Like I had to get rid of some stress. Number 2 was bring in a couple of key modalities into my home. So they were under my roof. So I had access to them at all times. And I didn't have to be on someone else's schedule or deal with traffic or somehow talk myself into saying I wasn't going to put myself on my schedule today. If it's under my roof, it's available to you at all times and you should be using it. And so finding out what those key things are for you is important. And then number 3, just protecting your sleep and your peace and just getting enough rest. I worked myself to the bone and then was like, "Oh, why is this, why am I overweight? Why is this not working for me?" It's because I wasn't giving my body the rest and restore that it needed to get up and perform for me the next day. And so those are probably my three biggest takeaways.
so great. That was lovely. All right. So Jen, how can people learn more about you, learn more about your show, learn
You
all
want to
of
learn
your
more? That wasn't
goodness?
enough.
Yeah.
So my show is Homes That Heal. Like I said, it's really just a lot of great conversations, some solo shows and some with some other people that have helped me along the way. That's Homes That Heal. My website's probably the best way to find me, jenhellerlifestyle.com. That has all my Jen recommends things that I have, home health books, connections. if you're looking for some of the people I've mentioned today, they're most likely on my website. That's kind of the storefront, if you will, of everything Jen Heller. So Jen Heller Lifestyle.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I feel like people can get very overwhelmed in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my gosh, how many thousands of dollars am I going to spend? But it sounds like your push is just to protect their sleep,
Yeah.
start small. And then, because we've done like kitchen detoxes with folks, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're asking me to throw away all my pans and buy all new pans. I'm like, well, it can happen. I think of it like a ball of wax, like start small and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe you throw a few away. Maybe you buy one here or one there, or,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you had said, it's been a 15-year plus journey of
Oh, yeah.
creating this new space.
Mm.
So cool. Awesome. All right. Well, all of your goodness will be in the show notes. And Jen Heller, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure.
Hold up a second. Before you scroll to the next episode, if you're thinking, I know what to eat, I'm just not doing it consistently, this is your sign. Nothing is wrong with you. Your nutrition doesn't need to be blown up. It just needs a reset, especially your gut. Stress, training, holidays, busy schedules, they all mess with your microbiome, which means low energy, weird cravings, and that off feeling you can't quite explain. That's exactly why I created the 28-day nutrition gut reset. No extremes, no perfection, just simple gut supportive habits, real structure, and live coaching so you're not doing it alone. We start January 1st, spots are limited, and the last day to join is January 5th. Head to theenduranceedge.com/reset, and remember, you're amazing.